Of all of the magic I perform, this feels the most real. No matter where you are, you simply take out 10 tarot cards, and suddenly, everything changes. Actually match one of those cards to someone that you know, and when you have that person in mind, set it here, but face down so we can't see it. Beautiful, beautiful. You hold out your hand one more time. Good, look at me. A lot of people think of a friend who they've known for a long time, but I think you went with a family member. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is there any way that I could know any of this?
No.
All right, think about this person, who they are, what they mean to you. They are taller than you.
Yes.
And older than you.
Yes.
But they're really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And would you say that this person is good at solving problems?
Yes.
Are you thinking of your father?
Yes. What?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Now, if you could have used any card to represent your dad, and you could have thought of anyone who you know, is that right?
Uh-huh.
Will you flip over that card and show me what card you used to represent him?
Literally, my hand is so sweaty right now.
Oh, you used strength to represent your dad. Remember, I set my card down before you did anything.
Right.
Flip it over.
No.
Shut up.
Oh my god! Oh!
Oh my god.
What?
It doesn't matter if you have zero experience using tarot cards. The Oracle system allows you to directly read people's minds and predict their future actions. I'm going to show you how you can use these cards to create stunning demonstrations of mind reading that your audience will never forget. The special gimmicks that you receive make the trick work every single time. They allow you to reveal intimate, personal details about someone who you've never met. And at the end, when you turn over the cards, you show you've predicted all of their decisions. Plus, the method is easy and reliable, so you can focus on your presentation. And hold your hand out towards me. This piece makes you stand out in a crowded world of card and coin tricks. People care about themselves, and the Oracle system, it's all about them. I'm also joined by one of my close friends and favorite mind readers, Luke Germain. Luke uses tarot cards on stage every single night, and he's going to talk about some of his secrets that he's never shared before. This effect, it's not a tarot card reading. It's a stunning series of mentalism reveals that create a powerful, memorable, and engaging experience for anyone you perform it for. Is there any way that I could have done It's completely about them, their lives, their choices, their future. For more than 10 years, this has been my closely guarded secret. And now, I want to share it with you.
Hello, everyone watching. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Colin Mcleod, and before we go any further, I genuinely thank you for being a part of the launch of Ben Seidman's Oracle system. But right now, before we bring in Ben, if you could make sure that you share this link from YouTube or Facebook, share it on your social media so that as many of your magician friends come and be a part of this as possible. So let's get straight into it, and please join me in welcoming the man, the brain behind this genuinely phenomenal routine system. Please welcome Mr. Ben Seidman.
Hey, Colin, and hey, everyone. Hey, it's great to be here, and by here I mean my house. Thank you for joining me.
Indeed, right? Yeah, and we're matching purple backdrops as well, so it does feel like the same house, but just slightly different parts of it.
Hey, buddy! Oh, no, I looked the wrong way. Hey, buddy! Sorry, that didn't work.
How are you, Ben?
I'm wonderful. Thanks, Colin. It's so nice to see you, as always.
No, this is genuinely super exciting because obviously I've known about this for, I've been very lucky to have known about it for years. So it's great to finally see other people now with the ability to perform it as well. And I should say, before we get into this, by the end, we're going to give away one of these systems for free. So everyone watching, if you want to ask questions and comment throughout this as well, we are going to give away one free Oracle system to what we deem the best question, the most unusual question, relevant, obviously, to the context of this conversation, to someone by the very end. So please keep asking your questions, and ultimately we'll address all of them by the end of this as well. But Ben, you first performed this for me back in 2018, which feels like so long ago, but yesterday at the same time. It's crazy, right? And we were on Broadway, and we went off to a bar at the side, and you sat us down, myself, my now wife, Chloe, my then fiance, and you said, I want to show you guys something. And it was amazing because there was a real shift, not in your character, but in the vibe of what it was you were about to perform for us. And then you brought out something that I had never seen you handle, something I never expected to see you handle, which were the tarot cards. And all of a sudden, it was like this wonderfully intriguing, charismatic, intense performance took place where you revealed, predicted, and knew things. You performed it for Chloe. There was no way you could have known, not just about what card she would pick, but how she was thinking and who she was thinking of at the same time. And just the real, genuine experience that created. I have never seen anything like that with cards, certainly with cards before in my entire life, certainly not that intimately, and certainly not that cleanly before. It was straight to the point, and it was like, honestly, the experience was mind-blowing, right? So it's not what I expected from you at all as a comedy magician. So tell me, like, where did this come from? Why did you want to develop this? And what sort of experience, reaction-based, have you had in real life with this?
Well, I have been toying with the idea of making magic more meaningful over the years. I do make my living as a comedy magician, and my main goal is to amaze people and entertain them. Like, I want them to walk away saying we saw things that we've never seen before. We laughed a lot. That was really fun and incredible. So that's always been my goal, but there's been this thing kind of like nudging me, which is I want to walk away. I wanted my audience to walk away from performances in the same way that I feel the most touched when I see a performance. Like, yes, I want to laugh when I see a comedian, but also it is the one-man shows, the comedy shows that like actually touch my heart that I remember the most, that resonate with me. And so I just really loved the idea of doing this. And so then it was a matter of, well, how can I inject that into my performances of the routines that I do, but also because I am making my living doing stand-up comedy magic, is there a section of my show that it can exist in this space specifically that can really draw people in and add layers and sort of a different flavor to the performance itself by injecting this piece in that resonates with people on a different level. And so it gives like hills and valleys to your performance, so you're not just on one note the entire time. And so when I had that idea, that's when I started playing with what could I use to get there, and then this sort of slowly fell together. And then when I say slowly, I mean it took years before it became what you see now in front of you and what I performed for you and Chloe a few years back. But it was kind of an adventure in trying to find a piece that would really resonate with people in a very different way that just making their card reappear somewhere would resonate.
No, absolutely. And when you say meaningful as well, the good thing is that as much as, yes, it's you, the performer, delivering that experience, the meaning doesn't come from you sharing your stories. It's from you allowing them to elicit parts of their personality. And as we well know, the thing people are interested in most is themselves, right? So it naturally lends itself to that. And, it's wonderful that it brings all of that together so simply as well. And you said there, it obviously resonates in a way where a signed card to wallet, never will. It's two very different things. But you said there are peaks and valleys. And I really believe, when you bring this out, it does allow a certain focus in that moment where people really do, the drinks go down, and everyone, it becomes an event as opposed to just magic trick after, moment after moment. It is a real event for everyone. Now, and of course, this, as you mentioned on the download, which is, I watched it last night from the treadmill, 2 hours of content. People need to realize, as much as you say, this is your take on old versions of tricks. I mean, you've really upped the handling. Not only that, the props have been designed specifically to ensure maximum impact, both visually and mechanically, so that it makes your life as a performer as easy as possible to execute the moves and the full routine. So all of that's taken care of. But more importantly, and I touched on it there, what you're really investing in, I feel, is, yes, the props are amazing. Yes, the trick is clever in itself. But the 2 hour download where you and Luc Germain really deep dive into how to perform this and how to connect with people and how to elicit that real feeling that you are inside of their head, telling them exactly who they're thinking of and what they're thinking of and what they're feeling about that person. In my opinion, yes, I mean, the props are amazing. The trick without all of that is a great trick. But when you add in all of that thinking, all of that knowledge and all of that wisdom, and really that experience, those 10 years that you've had of performing this and really learning how to best inject those readings, those character readings of everyone that people are thinking of, in my opinion, that's what really elevates this from just being any old matching trick to something where it feels like, you know, genuine mind reading, right?
I really got sick of, at a certain point, I got sick of, I would buy a trick and it would be like a good idea. And then they clearly thought about it a bit and then they released it. And I haven't released anything for years. I think it's been 12 years since I put anything out. And I decided that if I was ever going to again, I wanted it to be so fully thought out, just so fully baked that that no stone was unturned. And, you know, when we talk about giving magic meaning, you know, there's a couple different ways to do that. And making it about you is, in many cases, a very good way to do that. Like personal narrative-driven stories in my stage show, there's a chunk that's just monologue. It's just like a stand-up comedy monologue, but they get to know me and experience from my life. That's a great way because then people will relate and empathize. But like you said, we find that when it's about them, then it just takes it to a whole nother level, because even if someone doesn't care about magic, doesn't care about mind reading, but they're watching you for some reason, they're at an event you're performing at or whatever, because it's about themselves, suddenly they're incredibly invested. And it also just makes the people who are watching, who might not necessarily be involved, completely invested because they're now empathizing with that person. Not only is the mind reading incredible, like the structure of the routine will get big gasps, but more importantly, they're buying into the experience. And so it really feels much more real. I really think that is what makes it a piece that people walk away talking about. And if I'm performing even a stage show, this might be the only little close-up piece that I will do for the client after the show when everyone's kind of gathered around that one special thing. Because not only, I mean, artistically speaking, making it about them has so many assets, but also just like from a practical financial business standpoint, if they have an experience that really resonates with them, suddenly they're more interested in rehiring you for the next show and telling other people about you. So, you know, it's artistic, but also selfish.
Of course. And of course, the video, you can see here the message from Dale here says, the video you provided, this is absolutely full of great info on leaving your spectator with a memory they will treasure forever. Brilliant thinking.
Thank you.
Old reader's dream. And it's interesting he says that, because obviously I mentioned that Luc Germain is part of this download with you. And he really, you know, as much as you've performed this for 10 years, Luc, there are very few people, I think, in mentalism that you can use the word genius with, and it really mean it. And Luc Germain, without a doubt, is a genius when it comes to mentalism, performing mentalism, but also the shift he has taken to become more associated with the world of the esoteric and the tarot, and to have his insight is phenomenal. And he actually says on there, this routine is, and I love this, he said it's a template for success with readings. And I agree. But I think more than that, it's a template for success with learning and understanding how to truly connect with your spectator in a moment of what will feel to them like real magic.
Yeah, I didn't realize when I first started working on this, I thought, oh, this is going to be just this little great magic trick that I do. And then it grew to so much more. And then more than that, it kind of permeated everything else. And now I kind of approach everything I do under the lens from the Oracle system, because I feel like I'm now armed with this experience and this knowledge, which can allow me to inject little moments into the rest of my performances that make things stronger.
No, absolutely. And I'm interested, right? Because obviously, I know your stage work well. I know how proficient you are as a close-up magician and how great you are building energy and excitement with a group. So when you bring out the tarot cards, what type of reactions? I mean, what do people, first of all, say, think, do? How do they respond typically when you do bring this out in a close-up set, when it is still magical, but so different to what it is they've seen you do on stage?
Sure. I mean, I think I said on there, the temperature of the room changes. It definitely does. You have this intrinsic value with the props. Once you take them out, it really, like, it kind of just changes things, which is great, because how often do you take out an object that you're about to perform with, and suddenly everyone's more intrigued or have these preconceived notions about it that make them more interested? That doesn't happen very often. So you get that kind of as a bonus just by taking out these props. You take out the wallet, you remove it, you take out the cards, you set them down, and suddenly everyone's like, oh, okay. And then you can see people lean in, and it's really good because I find that when I begin the performance, and you can see a full like 10-minute performance where I only do one phase of the routine, but it's 10 minutes. You can perform this and make it a 2-minute piece, or it can be a half an hour piece. It's completely up to you. But that phase is just 10 minutes. You can see when I introduce them, how everyone kind of like shifts. You can just see the body language. And yeah, so when you bring them out, you have this moment where, at least for me, as a comedy magic performer, kind of people go, oh, okay, this is different. But it's great. It allows me to now kind of let this routine unfold in front of them in a way that they're now engaged in a different way. So it's really great for that. I think, by the way, I think a comment popped up on the screen while we were talking, and
It did, and then I missed it. So George, if you're still there, I'm sure you are. If you want to put it back there now, I will endeavor to, as George now panics as we put him on the spot behind the scenes, to try and rediscover this this comment. But yeah, everyone watching, please, by all means, keep asking questions. By the time we get to the end, I will make sure that we've asked all of these as well. We're just letting them build up. But Beth asks, how much does the specific tarot card affect the person's reading? Does the meaning of the card itself play into the performance at all?
Really interesting question, Beth. So when you're doing a traditional tarot reading, like if you are a tarot reader giving a reading, you're doing something very different than what I'm delivering with this performance. Because, for instance, the Fool, a card from the Major Arcana and one included in the cards that you get with the Oracle system, that's about innocence and a journey, and all of these things come to mind when you look at this card. And more often than not, I'm not actually talking about the meaning of that card. I'm talking about a different thing, because they're, in the context of the routine, comparing each card to someone in their life. So because I'm zeroing in on that person, I'm not actually focusing on the card and what it means in the tarot normally, unless my spectator, if I say at the beginning, have you ever had a tarot reading? And they say, oh yes, all the time, I love tarot. Then it's going to be a slightly different thing. But if it's someone who isn't that familiar, or maybe they got a reading once or twice, I'm not actually focusing on the meaning of that card. I'm focusing on the person that they are thinking about, who they compared to that card. And in many cases, that's very different than the actual meaning of the card, because during a reading, you kind of explain to the person what each card means and why that has impact to them. Whereas with this, the card that they choose to match the person who they're thinking of might not actually be the meaning of the traditional tarot. And that kind of allows you to let this experience unfold in a way where, instead of making it feel like a reading, it feels more like a mind reading trick with a prediction as well.
And what's also great is that Luke covers on the download, for people with zero experience with tarot cards, here is exactly how to present and perform this piece, and addressing the fact that you are not as familiar with them. All of that is taken care of. So for anyone thinking, oh, I need to have a deep knowledge of the tarot, it's great if you do, but for those of you that don't, like myself, this is still something you can pick up, perform, and inject your own, as Luke would say, intuition into it. And he explains in detail how to do that, which kind of leads on into the next question that popped up there, is, can you perform this in any language? Are there any language restrictions with this, Ben?
I mean, the only languages you're restricted against performing this in are the ones that you do not speak. I will never perform this in Mandarin, because I don't speak Mandarin. If I learn Mandarin, maybe I will, but no, you can perform this in any language. I think because the cards, like the tarot cards themselves, have the words written in English, you might need to, if you're performing for a spectator who doesn't speak English, you might need to say strength in whatever language that you're performing in, and just explain what the cards are. But beyond that, no, you can do this in any language.
Yeah, that's great. And again, keep those questions coming in, and by the end of this, we'll make sure everything's covered. Travis asks, do you have any tips for segueing from intense personal magic to lighter, more high energy routines with the same audience? So interesting. We've discussed one way where you go from your character on stage. What about the other way, where you would, maybe someone would come in at the end and see this piece and then have the perception of you being this type of performer? And then how do you segue back to what we better, I suppose, know you for in general?
It's a really interesting question, Travis. Thanks for asking it. I think that, let me start with this. So when you're first choosing your character in Magic, everyone when I was younger would say you have to choose what your character is. And that always
Okay, I think Ben got really excited with answering that question there, so decided to do the remix live stream version of that question. While we get Ben back, I mean, I think speaking from my experience, whenever I've written new shows, I usually perform a brand new 1 hour show every year at the Edinburgh Festival. And when I write those shows, the goal is to never, number one, anyone writing a show is to never try and better the work that you've done before. Because if you try and better it, then you're putting pressure on yourself that you don't need. Whereas if you think to yourself that you want to create an entirely different show or an entirely different experience, and you look at it like that, then you're able to essentially start from a blank canvas, and you allow yourself creatively to find brand new ways of approaching things. Then you take that different piece, whatever it is, and you make it as good as possible. And then you find that by having, in my opinion, this sort of array, this toolbox of different pieces that elicit different types of emotion, people love the texture of that journey. And the fact that each piece finds its own way of resonating with them. I find now it doesn't matter what order I do things in, because each piece is allowed to stand on its own and breathe for itself. And as a result, they remember the feeling of the entire journey as opposed to just that one part. Ben, hi.
Hi, I came to you on a different camera. I'm not sure what happened, guys, but technology.
You loved it. You just over and over again, repeating just the same. It was incredible. Like,
Colin,
wow,
what did you lose me?
At what point did we lose you? So you had just popped on. We mentioned that the Oracle system is now available at Vanishing Ink. And then, so if you could just start from the beginning again. We were saying something about we're in the same room, same lights. We made that dreadful gag, and then we moved on. You looked one way. No, we heard you up until the question was segueing back from a piece that's more intense and more personalized. Yeah. How do you then take it from, the spotlight down on that moment to then opening it up, I suppose, back to the higher energy type stuff?
Yeah, I think that so what I think I was starting to talk about making your character choices. Everyone told me to make choices about your character. I eventually settled on I'm performing as myself, but in a heightened environment. I just turn up the volume on myself, which I think it works better for me, and I think it works better for most people. You have to be a really trained actor to play a different character and have it really sell and not be fake. Once I made that decision, then I realized that almost anything that I am performing, as long as I'm performing it as me, it kind of works in whatever context. So even if I'm going from something light and fun to something that's much more intense like the Oracle system, and then back into other visual magic, it still works because it's still me. All you need is a good transition and deciding, what you're in and what you're out is for the routine. So for me, when I transition out of this routine, I mean, oftentimes this is the last thing I perform for people. In close-up, I'll close with this. So I don't normally transition out of it. But if I did want to do something else, it would just be a matter of finding what that transition was for you that would work the best.
No, that makes perfect sense. And Richard here asks, curious, I noted in the teaser that the woman was quite emotional. It seems like this could get pretty deep with someone. How do you manage that?
Great question, Richard. I intentionally chose cards from the major arcana for this, specifically so that it wouldn't get too upsetting. At least that's the goal. There's a card called the Hermit, and I felt that if someone was comparing someone in their life to the Hermit, it was very, very, very likely to be too emotional in a way that I didn't want. So yes, it can go there. I never try to push it there. It goes there naturally if someone makes the choice to go there. And I'm always very, very careful. I subscribe to the campsite rule. Dan Savage talks about this a lot, leaving people better than when you found them. And so to me, it's very important if someone goes into a place where they're thinking about someone who is no longer with us, or they're thinking about some past trauma, to put them and taking care of them, being kind to them and gracious, and put their care as the most important part. So my readings don't intentionally go into a place that are so emotional that it's really upsetting. But on the very rare occasions that someone has had emotional response that was beyond what I wanted for that context, I simply move the reading. I take care of them first, campsite rule, and then I move it to a different person that they're thinking of. Or you can if that happened, you could go straight to the revelations at the end if you wanted to abort. But I think that, yeah, you have to be careful. This is a very, very powerful tool. You're not doing a coin trick. You're doing something about the person and the people in their life. So you do have to be conscious of that.
And Bill asks, you've obviously put many hours of thought into the development of this presentation. What motivated you to release this for others to perform? Do you believe other performers can personalize this?
Great questions. Yes, absolutely. Other performers can personalize this. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I decided that this was going to be the one thing that I put out in 12 years, which is that I think this really lends itself to giving people gifts. Like this is a gift that you give to someone. It's not just a moment of magic. It's a moment of magic. It's a combination of moments in magic about them. And so I think that is a gift. And I want other people to be able to spread that joy and give that gift. I was sitting on this for so long, and so many people had said, "Hey, can I have permission to perform this?" for years, and I just kept saying no. And then eventually, I realized I learned so much from the magic community. It was time for me to give back by putting something else into the world. And this seemed like the perfect routine because I really believe that anyone can become a better magician by learning this.
Yeah, I mean, I was delighted because it took a bit of convincing, but back in New York, and I eventually convinced you to not just, give me one set, but I think, how many did I get back then?
I remember very distinctly that I gave you one, and then the next phone call you said, "Hey, can I have 7 more of these?"
Yeah, I mean, I was using it for Woody Aragon's Love Ritual, so it got very expensive very quickly, right? So I had to invest. But no, I just knew immediately, like when you performed it, and then you'd given me a set, which was so grateful. But the fact that you were giving permission to do it, I was like delighted, because I mean, the reality is, as far as personalizing this goes, right? It comes from the tarot are an ancient, oracle in themselves. And the real personalization is going to come from you, the person performing this, with that person in that moment. And whatever it is you find most naturally connects you to that other person. So inherently, if you try and be Ben from the trailer or the download, or Luke Germaid performing this, it's never going to connect in the same way it would if you just be your authentic self. And that's what is ultimately going to personalize this. Yes, you could find your own presentation for how you explain why tarot cards, perhaps at the top. But ultimately, when you see the impact and the power of the actual routine, you're going to realize that it really does come down to you and them, which kind of brings us back to this idea of something you touched on at the very beginning that I'd love to dive a little deeper into, which is making magic meaningful. Now, you and I both have grown up in stand-up comedy as well. And the thing I personally have always loved and respected about comedy and comedians is that it feels like they are connecting with their audience through apparently the truth. And they're really opening up, and they are sharing that honest view, perception, or side of themselves with the world. And as magicians, we're often connecting through deception. Lie is a strong word, because there's obviously that contract where the audience know that fundamentally there is that underlying thing. So we're trying to connect through deception. And I always feel that where a comedian can walk on stage and it just be this open and shared experience immediately, magicians have to get the audience to buy into them first before they're willing to lower their guard and realize he's not out to fool me. This is part of the experience, which then ultimately allows it to become more honest and more meaningful. So with regards to this routine or magic in general, interpret it how you will, Ben, but what are your views overall about making magic more meaningful to your audience?
I think with many stand-up comedians, we automatically know that they're telling the truth, which is funny because so many jokes are born from a truth, but then evolve into, examples are used that maybe didn't actually happen, or it's an accelerated reality. But I think comedians, at least in the last, 10, 15 years, have become these truth tellers in many cases. And with magic, we really don't see that. I think a lot of that is because many magicians seem fake. They seem disingenuous. And I think part of that is because a lot of people will buy a trick or read a trick and then just perform it with the script that's there. The people who really impact their audiences when they're performing are the people who put themselves into it. I think fake is very easy to smell. I think people can spot it from a mile away, and I think that hurts a lot of people. It doesn't mean that your show has to be a confession show where it's so true that you literally put everything in your life out there, but you could. I think a step in the right direction is just thinking, how can I put more of me into my show by being honest with them? And I think that'll buy you just miles of headway with your audience, even just doing that a little bit. And then, of course, the more you do it, then the deeper and deeper, and the more I think it will resonate with people. I do think that, like, make it about them, which is what the Oracle system does. That's like the given, because people care about themselves more than anything, even if they don't care about magic. But then if you make it about you, that also can create a strong emotional response where they empathize, they realize it's not fake, and then they're now buying into the performance. And a combination of that together is, it's the best. It really leaves people with something other than, well, that was a cool show, or that was really fun. I'm really interested in leaving people with a thing that they remember for a long time.
Yeah, and something just that I feel with that is adding that relatability factor. When people see something, it's like, why would they care about having that magic power or that ability? You know, what makes them care about it? So I think that relatability, but also the ability to show a sense of vulnerability as well. So often magicians just want to be the great, powerful gods, you know, as Taylor talks about, whereas if we can lower that to superhero who do have weaknesses and show that vulnerability. And again, something like this routine is so perfect because we are encouraging people to lower that guard, trust you, and be vulnerable in that moment. And that is where you really become, the human connection is really made and established through those moments, you know, and I think that vulnerability is something that as performers, we're now only finding, you know, ways for the first time, perhaps, at least that I'm aware of really opening up and sharing that side of us. And I think that's what audiences buy into more. A question popped up there from Eric Mead, and we don't want to miss that because we know that Eric is brilliant and knows you in this routine very well. He says, talk about how the piece plays if you don't give a character reading as part of the presentation.
Interesting. So Eric said to me a few things when I first showed this to him, and one of them was that this is dangerous. He said that this can be dangerous because of how impactful it can be, and that he's not wrong. I do think that, Eric, when I perform this, I very rarely do it as just the ending, which is a much more traditional magic trick. Then if you just perform the ending, you're going to see that this plays in a similar way as many other routines that are published, but with tarot cards. So it does have added intrigue. It does make it feel a little different, but it's really, in my mind, it's the character reading, which is the body of the routine. That's what the strength is. So I rarely will perform this if I'm just going to kind of do the ending. I do want the character reading to be there, even if it's simple. If I don't want to go deep, and to your point, Eric, if I don't want to really dive in deep, if I don't want to do a 25-minute presentation of this routine, but I do want to do maybe 3 or 5 minutes, that character reading can be very, very short, and it can be based entirely on the information that I get from the spectators. The great thing about this routine is they're giving you information about themselves without even realizing it. They're literally handing you information invisibly to them and to the audience. So you can just make your reading about that and not dive in deeper. You could do this without any cold reading if you wanted to. And it's not even cold reading. It's technically hot reading because of the info. I saw a question pop up and it disappeared. George,
that was Bella. She was saying that it sounds amazing and she can't wait to pop over to Vanishing and buy it right now. As I genuinely, like, no one is, I assure you, you know, unless you are a tarot card reader, no one is performing anything in their act exactly like this right now. And to at least add this new layer of emotion to what it is you offer your audience, I highly encourage everyone to, you know, if it's not for you, I get it. But I think the people that are going to buy this, do what Ben is saying. Don't just go straight for the matching routine. Really genuinely commit and learn to connect with that person and give those readings, because you will find, as Ben said, it is hot reading, and you will find that the more you do this, you're going to at points convince yourself. This is a scary thing for me with, you know, cold reading, is that I have said things in the past where you're in flow and in that mindset and in that you're vibing with that person, your rhythms align. And I have said things before and I'm like, where did that come from? And it's just like the names of people, you know, and who's Robert to you? That's my husband, or that's my dad. And you're just like, maybe I can do this. Yeah, maybe they don't need to write this stuff down anymore. Maybe I can just know. But it is amazing. But the fact that you have that safety net of the backbone of this routine, as you say on the download, Ben, is a wonderful place to be.
Colin, can I jump in with two things very quickly?
Well, it's your Q&A, so you absolutely can. You're the boss.
Okay, well, I will say that I learned this from, I can't remember whether it was, I think it was either Mike Birbiglia or Bo Burnham, but in an interview, a comedian who I like and respect said, I like to run everything through the who gives a crap test. And what he was saying was everything he does, every routine, and for us magically, if we're taking it in the context of magic, everything you do, you run through the who gives a crap test. It's very hard for material to pass this test. But if you run things through that, then suddenly you're like, oh, unfortunately, I have to take this piece out, because unless you really just like, oh, I love packet tricks, then why would your audience give a crap? So if you run that through your routines, suddenly you're looking at them in a very critical way, but it also allows you to realize what's really good about them. And that's one of the things I love about this, is that it passes the who gives a crap test with flying colors, this routine, more than almost anything else I do. And I should also mention too, when we talk about tarot reading and experience, when I first started this, I had zero experience with tarot cards. When I came up with this idea, zero experience with tarot cards. Not only that, zero experience cold reading. But I wasn't really that interested in tarot at the time. And also cold reading scared me. I was worried that I would get something wrong. But what this routine allows is it gives you this safety net so that when you're performing it, you have information that you can come back on that will hit every time. And then other information that is very, very likely to hit. So you have this, like, you're basically walking along a sidewalk. If you want to try to jump and see if you can fly, you can. And a lot of times you will. But you can always just come back and land safely and end with a bang because you have this information. So I just wanted to put it out there that I'm not I didn't study the tarot for years and years and years. You know, you look at someone like Luke, John Wilson, Jared Kopf, people like this who are so experienced with tarot, they could sit down and give you an incredible reading with a deck of tarot cards. You don't need that to perform this. This is truly meant for people like me who had no experience cold reading or using the tarot.
And just as a reminder for people joining in late as well, the download covers all of this, the range, the spectrum of performing this as a complete newbie to this world of esoteric tarot card type reading, all the way through to how to become more advanced with it and get those accurate hits that you see Ben get in the trailer. Now, while we wait for more questions coming in, one thing that I do want to address and sort of get your perspective on is it's made very clear that this is not to be performed on TV. And you're encouraging people to perform this live. And I would just love to know, and I know when I release things and I tell people, look, I'd rather you not perform it on TV, I have my reasoning that I'll get into after, I'll let you address it from your point of view. But what is just so that everyone understands, so that we're open and honest about this, what is the thinking on requesting that?
Oh, well, I really wanted this piece to have the value that it does when I perform it. And in a live environment, this feels like this incredibly special routine. I was worried that just doing it on TV would make it feel trivial or set up. Sometimes, very often, the reactions that you will get and the hits that you get built into this routine are so strong that they look like they've been set up. And people on TV, I think it's very easy to see a performance like that and go like, oh, they're in on it. Whereas if you're in person, the person finishes and then people rush over and they say, oh my God, how did he know that? Did you talk to him beforehand? No. Oh my God, he didn't ask you questions beforehand? No, he didn't even know my name. That can exist in a live environment, where on TV, I think people are very quick to be able to just shrug that off. Oh, they're an actor. So that was part of it. And another part of it is I just want this to be special for everyone who bought it. And if someone, I think, we were talking about this before, Colin, if someone else goes and performs it on TV and kind of burns that material, then suddenly all of you who have put in the time learning this and who have put in the money buying it, then suddenly it's less valuable to you. And I didn't want that to happen.
Exactly. And it is that idea of keeping it special so that surprise, unexpected experience takes place in real life for people. I mean, when I put stuff out and I say, look, I'd love you to not do this on TV, chances are, and let's be honest for a second, so few people right now are sitting behind the scenes writing their next, Netflix special, right? So it's not really a worry. But then there are people who perform on local TV news shows. In my experience, when I'm on those shows, advertising or promoting whatever it is I'm doing, when they end say, so come on then, show us a trick, or whatever wording they use that feels equally as offensive, in that moment, I know I've only got 90 seconds to do something. And if you think this is the perfect thing to do in 90 seconds, then I'm sorry, but you are wrong. Because to make this as impactful as it can be, as Ben has said, you want to, as much as it can last a few minutes up to, you know, as Ben says, 20 minutes, I think is close to your record for performing this and making it, you know, astonishing. If you're trying to do this quickly under pressure for a TV anchor who's got an earpiece in with their producer saying, right, move it along, hurry up, it's not the right environment. You're not going to get the reaction from them that this can, you know, garner or, you know, that you want to have presented to everyone performing. So I think in that regard, anyway, it's never going to be a concern, in all honesty. And, you know, just to reflect what you said, if someone did do this as part of a TV show, it then takes the surprise out of it. So when you go do it, people are like, oh, that's like what that guy did. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. So really, the thinking behind this isn't to hinder you. It's to protect your investment, first of all, so that you have that wonderful experience that you can share with people in real life, by knowing that no one else is going to go out there and burst that bubble for you, that you have this in your repertoire that will remain special, and will allow you still to connect with people. So yeah, no, thank you for answering that. And
yeah, you do a lot of TV, and I've done quite a bit of TV as well. Like, you and I both know that this is not the type of routine that, like, this is not the right choice for a spot. I want this to be as special for you and the people you perform for as it is for me when I perform it for people. And for those people, I want those stories to continue. And so I just don't want it to be trivialized. I want it to be valuable for everybody.
Yeah. So don't read it as don't perform it on TV. What Ben is really saying is, please perform this in real life for as many people as possible, as often as you can. That is really what we're saying. We couldn't encourage you more to be doing this in real life. So thank you for addressing that, because I think, you know, a couple of people asked about it. But Daniel asks here, if everyone starts performing this, how do you make it your own and different?
Hey, Daniel, great question. The lucky thing with this routine is that if you do, say, an ambitious card routine, or even a mentalism routine where you do a center tear or something, it's point A to point B. And the only thing that's going to be different is maybe, in the case of the center tear, the word that they thought of, or the drawing that they wrote, or, you know, whatever it might be. With the ambitious card, a card jumps to the top. That's the story. The beautiful thing about this is that it really is different every time, because each person that you're talking to and performing it for is a different person. So, you know, that's built into the trick. So it's not a concern.
Yeah, and I also think that everyone, the story they come up with how they came to be, you know, find the tarot in their life, I think sharing that, you know, I can think back to when I was a kid and, you know, tarot cards, my parents were so against tarot cards. I mean, I've used them. I talk about that, and that, you know, the rebel inside me wanted to know more and more about, well, why are they such an evil thing? You know, so finding your own real, true story with it is ultimately going to help you lead into this in a different way, which will then lead to that, as Ben says, unique experience for everyone.
Yeah, the cards could be something that you've been studying for years. The cards could have been gifted to you by a mysterious person. You could have found them in a coffee shop, and there was a note saying to whoever finds them. I mean, the way that you introduce them, you could approach this in so many different ways. You could say, I know this guy, Ben Seidman, who's a magician, and he sold this trick he created, and I bought it from vanishing it. You could say anything you wanted to. Wow. Really, there's a million ways in, and that's going to help make, you know, your presentation, just the beginning, start to feel unique. That's, you know, we've done all the work for you with the release, but the in and out, that's for you to kind of develop on your own. And we also have a question from Charlie.
Charlie says, do you ever have an issue with the helper getting emotional? And if so, how do you handle it?
Great question. Actually, Vanishing released a full performance of one phase for 10 minutes that I think is up on their Facebook. Take a look at that, because that exact thing happened. And I didn't intend to it. We were filming the magic trailer. I didn't intend for it to get that deep and that emotional, but you can see how I dealt with it. I did exactly what I told you earlier, which is I tried to make sure that the spectator, that this person who I was connecting with, that this wonderful, wonderful woman was taken care of in that moment. And then when I felt that she was, I shifted onto something else and then tried to delight her with the other moments of magic. And she thought about then a different person from her life. And then that person was like had made fun choices and had made mistakes and was very adventurous. And so, it went to this place that was more emotional than I had intended. And then we just steered the ship right back over. It's just a matter of then shifting the focus. And then by the end, it was this really wonderful thing. So it really hit multiple notes. It was sad, it was happy, it was amazing, it was beautiful. And in the end, I think it was this really great piece. So it's actually a good, even though I didn't intend for filming to get emotional during this, I think that's a great example of how you can sort of navigate those waters.
Yeah, amazing. And watching you do it and how you do navigate it is a masterclass in itself. And obviously, as much as we're saying close-up, using this close-up, one thing I have learned from our mutual friend Shin Lim is that you can take a deck of cards and you can fill theaters with them night after night, because now something that once played small with the use of, I'm not saying he uses simple technology, but with a basic camera setup, you could very easily now perform this, I imagine, on stage with camera, GoPro overhead plugged into screen projector, and a lot of venues have this already. If not, I imagine for a few $100s, if you wanted to invest and make this a huge stage piece, you could as well. So, I mean, do you have any experience? Maybe the answer is no, because I know you've always used it close up, but do you have any experience with it on stage? And if not, okay. But knowing how stage work plays, how would you or best advise, I suppose, people to adapt this to a stage performance?
Yeah, I definitely have done it on stage, both in like a parlor setting for like a group of people that I wouldn't call it close up, but for, like 50 or 60 people. And I've also done it for over 1,000 on stage with a camera. So it lends itself very beautifully to that type of close up routine performed on stage, because the audience can see both the person on stage and also the screen, so they can see the cards when they come into play. So it works very, very well for that. And I've done that many, many, many times. In fact, we were going to use some of the footage, I think, for this release, just so you could see me doing it on stage with a camera. But it was because I was using my main camera as the projector to get thrown on the screen so that would be good quality. It was essentially just an older iPhone that was filming it, so the footage wasn't good enough to include. But yeah, I've certainly done that. And then in a parlor setting, you can put it in wine glasses. Paul Vigil kind of introduced me into the idea of using wine glasses for his beautiful Sympathy for the Devil routine. And it works very nicely with wine glasses on stage. So that handling is also
never has Sympathy for the Devil being a more fitting title than using a deck with an actual devil card present, right? So, I mean, it comes full circle beautifully. No, I've not seen that footage of you doing it on stage. I mean, I can imagine you doing it there. I've seen you do, for example, other coin work and stuff on stage, and the way that you really bring the focus in at that point, because you're great as a performer at making the energy blast out. But then to have those moments where it comes down and people get to breathe and focus and really enjoy something, I can imagine that playing like so well. But in general, I mean, what is your experience, I suppose, of performing on? I mean, you performed theaters, stages, cruises, colleges, corporate shows for thousands around the world. And in general, I mean, I'm sure people are interested. I mean, how do you, number one, what are the best ways to play to big groups in general with all magic? But then when you then bring it down to a moment like that, I mean, how do you best conduct or control that experience?
Wow. I mean, that's a big question. That's a whole nother hour-long live stream to discuss this. But let me try to touch on it here. There was a theater teacher named Barbara Gensler that I had early on in my life. And she used to say, if you have fun, your audience has fun. And I think that's true. And I think it's great. But I will also then now extend that in the context of magic to say, if you are passionate about something, it makes your audience more likely to feel that passion and then engage in that thing. So, that gets back to helping make your magic more meaningful. If you treat what you're performing as trivial, then the audience is going to perceive it that way, and that's how they're going to feel it. But if you really, really care about what you're doing and are truly passionate, then you can see it. You can see it in the eyes of the performer, and then that permeates everything in the show, and then suddenly people are much more likely to be bought in. I think when I was younger, I would be almost embarrassed of magic, and I quickly, thank God, got over that and really, really strongly feel that magic is important and beautiful and wonderful, and I want to be able to give people this experience, and I think people can feel that. So you can apply that to your own performances, certainly, for those of you who are watching.
You said strongly a lot there. We thought you were buffering again for a second. We panicked. We thought, oh no, not again. We've lost them. But no, I agree. And I think the biggest thing is that I said there the word conduct. I think I look at it as you're a conductor on that stage. And I've been lucky to play, stadiums with Illusionist of 8,000 people. And the job of the conductor, the performer, is to make everyone feel a part of it and find ways to connect with everyone so that when you eventually do narrow it down to the one person perhaps on stage that you're doing the routine with, whether it's a comedy bit, whether it's a more emotive piece, everyone is then invested in that individual. And it's your job as the conductor to not just, as a comedian would conduct the entire audience and bring them together to laugh. It's to elicit the best. Hypnotists are great at this, eliciting the best from that person and their experience so that everyone vicariously through that individual feels what it is they're feeling. And so that we care about you and them and ultimately the theatrical play, the piece that's being, it's taking place and before us on stage, we invest in that, excuse me, because we care. And it goes back to what you said about the Mike Birbiglia quote about who gives a crap. And it really is all of those things in one place. So again, I know we're coming to a bit of an end, but if there are any last questions that people still want to ask, please throw them in. And like we said, as much as this is available at Vanishing right now, we'll choose one winner by the end. Jay asks, what can the typical hobbyist / amateur get out of this?
I truly think I got this quote from, it was either Kostya Kimlat or Karl Hein. I can't remember which one. Both great friends and both appreciated the routine. One of them said, "This will make you a better magician." And I do believe that this teaches valuable lessons about magic and about performing and about connecting with spectators. So even if you're a hobbyist, you only perform occasionally. I really do feel like this piece will teach you great lessons about performing. There's another one. Is there content advice for beginners of the reading part included? Yes, absolutely. There isn't a lot of other suggested material. You can do that research on your own. I think that what I present in the download, it's almost 2.5 hours. What I present, what Luke presents, that is plenty to get you going on this. If you want to do other research on cold reading and hot reading and all sorts of, please educate yourself on magic and mentalism as much as you can, but you don't need anything else than what is included to be really great at this. What was your first performance like? Brandon, is that my first performance ever or my first performance of this trick? Because my first performance ever was my own 6th birthday and I sucked. It was very mediocre. I was wearing a cape. My mom made it for me. It was adorable. But I did my best, and hey, I'm here. My first performance of this, very exciting. I thought it was just going to be I had the idea, I made it, I performed it, and I thought it was just going to be a cool trick. And like so many things, I was shocked and excited to perform it for the first time, and it was miles more powerful than I ever had expected. And that's when I immediately knew, oh, okay, I've got something here. I'm going to keep developing this. I can rapid fire a few more questions if you want, George. Feel free to throw anything up.
I am completely irrelevant. Ben could do this alone, right? I don't know. I mean, there are very few people I got up at 9:30 a.m. on a Saturday for, Ben. But to have one mentalism release this year, not involve Black Velvet, it was a delight. So this is why I'm here. No batteries, no Blackheart. This is the real stuff.
Thanks, Colin. You bring so much to the table. You're so smart and
hairspray mainly. That's about it. But yeah,
an incredible performer. I'm so honored that you're here with me. All right, Colin, will you read this next question to me?
I would love to, Ben. I would love to. If you want to close your eyes so it feels like a surprise, that'd be great. Will you continue down the palm/tarot palm reading route? If so, will you try to add more comedy in? Or will you keep it pure? I think that's great because obviously there could be an inclination when you are, as you are, so comedic and so naturally comedic in your delivery. I imagine, is it tough to kind of switch that off and not want to be funny? Because we all know comedy is a great way to connect with someone. So what is it like to have to turn that off in general? And would you ever put more comedy into this?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that is very funny. It depends on the context that I'm performing it in. Even the full routine that I said that Vanishing published, where you could see the full performance on Vanishing Inc.'s Facebook, you'll see that I make people laugh, not super hard, not huge laugh lines, but there are definitely laughs throughout just because of the way I handle it. Will I continue to develop the comedy of this? Yes, there's like stand-up routines. When you buy the download, there's also a PDF, and that comes with another script that I use that has some jokes in it that you could use if you wanted to. Yes, I will continue developing that. Will I shift gears completely and leave comedy magic? Probably not, because I love this, but I also could see myself doing a performance where I only do a couple of pieces. I do Oracle System in 3 phases for half an hour, and then I do maybe 1 or 2 other spiritual feeling mind reading tricks, and then that's the show. I don't know if I'm going to go in that direction because I do love visual comedy magic as well, but having the combination of them together is what really I think is what gives maximum impact and variety. I'm all about impact to the spectators, so whatever gets me there. Yes. Can you? Great question, Carlos. Can you do this as a standalone set? Yeah, 100%. The video that I keep referencing, that was just 1 phase, and that was 10 minutes long. And also, I was conscious of the fact that I was filming, so I even cut out bits. So that could have been 15 minutes easily with 1 phase. And you can do 2 or 3 phases. 2 is my favorite. So yeah, this could be a standalone set if you wanted to. Hi, Martin. Oh, how would you follow up if someone wanted more from you in a reading sense? So Martin, when I perform this, I'm very clear with spectators about how I don't believe in a lot of the woo-woo supernatural things. I kind of talk about in most cases how these cards are pieces of art, these ancient pieces of art, these tarot cards. And like any piece of art, you can hold it up and it's like looking in a mirror. And like any good piece of art, you can learn things about yourself and about the world by looking at it. So that's what we're going to do here. So then I try to make it so that they don't then come say like, oh my God, can you talk to my dead pets and relatives? And if they do, I'll just say, I don't believe that that is possible. I think personally that if people are saying that they do that, they might be hustling you or themselves. I'm very clear with people, but that's my own style. You could certainly take this and make it a real psychic feeling piece. I have my own ethical qualms with that, but we all have to make our own decisions.
Wonderful. Unless there are any last questions, Ben, I think you have been very informative, very gracious with your time and thinking on all of this here. So this has been great, I hope, for everyone, not just for the Oracle system, which, again, obviously is why we're here celebrating its release this weekend. But I think just some of the stuff, I mean, I've found out a couple of things that I didn't know about your thinking here. So, like, thank you for sharing all of that. And I hope everyone watching feels like, you know, this was worthy of their time. But we did say at the very start that we were going to give away one of the Oracle system sets. I think let's be spontaneous and give away.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Colin, before we
sorry.
give it away, the giveaway goes to the person with the best question. I wanted an extra set, and I've been working on a question for myself for months.
Well, that's all we've got time for today, folks. So thanks for watching. And do you genuinely have a question that you would ask yourself?
No, I don't. That was purely a bit. I would love to give one of these away to the lovely people who have been watching.
Yeah, it looks like my cat has just appeared over this side. This often. Where are we? There we go. There she is. She sits in the light. Maybe she's asking for a question. She wins the tarot set for today. That is petrifying. Just like a light.
Do you have tarot cards that are made exclusively out of meat?
I don't, but I will show you that I do have a phrenology head made purely for cats.
Love it.
You don't get that normally in my my virtual online magic show. It's for you guys, just here at Vanishing Ink, all the exclusive good stuff. But no, I think instead of giving 1 set away, I think we be spontaneous. We give 2 sets away. So we had the private chat feature occurring throughout this. I don't know if you're still on there. I know that you had a slight moment where you very quickly and professionally reset and joined us again. But if you're looking at the private chat, I think can you see names there?
Yes, I can.
And I think, given that this is you're the man of the hour, I think if you would like to announce, we'll go with 2 sets, so 2 winners of the Oracle system set.
Okay, so I will say that Jesse Case says in the comments, vegan wallet? Nope, I can't do it. I can't support the vegan cult that kills it for me. Well, Jesse, you have not won because you should know that the vegan wallet is made out of real vegans, so you should have supported it. Sorry, Jesse. You can eat your own meat, but I didn't want to kill animals for a trick. It just wasn't my thing. Not for you. Can this be? By the way, I feel like it's difficult for me to choose one. There's some comments that I didn't see. So Colin, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rapid fire.
Private chat, Ben. Nudge, wink, wink. Then we have made life very easy for you.
Private chat. Have you already chosen a winner?
I mean, I don't want to make it. Well, we have been going through all of the comments while Ben's been chatting and looking at. I mean, all your questions are great and appreciated. But I think just based on the way that you answered a couple. There we go. Cool. I was filling there. That was me filling again. You know.
Great filler. By the way, I'm just going to rapid fire a couple very quick answers, just from some questions I saw pop up. Are the sets identical or are they variations? The sets are identical because I chose those cards very, very specifically for the routine, which you will understand once you get into the meat of it. This is not a Zoom trick. It could be adapted for Zoom. I was just talking to a buddy about this the other day. You could do it, but they have to have the cards in hand. So you'd have to mail out the card. That's a whole thing. This is a live routine. So do this live. Let's see. Refills, Carlos, that's a Vanishing Ink question. Great question. You can email Vanishing Ink. I don't know if they're available yet, but we'll probably make them available soon. So what will you do with your second $1 million? Paul, I don't understand that question. That's very kind of you to think that I'm wealthy. I do okay for myself. Wonderful. Thank you. I've got a lot of kind comments. I think this is it for questions.
Couple of questions on my cat, but we'll cover them in a different Vanishing Ink.
Yep, absolutely. The single greatest thing I bought. Oh, thank you very much. That's kind. All right, I'm going to go to the private chat now to announce the winner. The best questions come from, drumroll, Mr. Richard Russeth.
Yeah, well done, Richard.
Bella Sophia. I was going to say them both separately and dramatically, but then they both came up on the screen. Congratulations, Bella.
Order and everything. It was amazing. It was epic. Yeah, if you guys want to email that address, beneathmagic@vanishinginkmagic.com, and you guys will be, they'll sort you out with a set of the Oracle system as well. For everyone else watching, I mean, it's an amazing investment, right? The strength of this piece is incredible, and I highly encourage everyone who's already on the edge of getting it, like, you will not regret it. It is a phenomenal piece. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. But even when you do it for the first time, you're already going to get solid, amazing reactions. And again, it will just grow from there. So thank you for everyone for tuning in. And Ben, thank you very much for your time. Any final parting words for all these fine people watching with us around the world right now, Ben?
Absolutely. Well, firstly, Colin, thank you very much for being here. Your wisdom is infinite, and I love that you love this, and I appreciate you being here to talk about it with me. And for the people who are watching, Colin said an interesting thing about reactions, and this is a thing that I've talked to him about. I've talked to Max Maven quite a bit about this. Max really sees the value in this routine, and we kind of talked about how it's, yes, you will get good reactions when you're performing it because everyone wants good reactions. Yes, people will be amazed. Yes, people that will be impacted on a different level. But what you're also buying into is the fact that these people are now going to think about this experience for much longer. It's going to resonate with them in a different way. So what that means for you artistically is that then they're thinking about the piece and the performance and therefore you for longer, which is great. And then, just for a purely selfish business side of things, if you're kept in their mind because of that experience that they had, then you're more likely to be hired. So it's a couple of really great reasons why I love performing this. But truly, everyone, thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor to do this with Vanishing Ink. They're amazing. It's an honor. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ben. Well done. Take care. Stay safe, everyone. And I'm sure we'll see you back here very, very soon.